All right. Well, why am I happy? There we go. Now all the platforms are happy. Okay. All of my
Oh,
platforms were not happy there for a minute, but we got it.
I love it.
Listen,
You know what? This is the thing where it's the behind the scenes that comes in front of the camera, right? That's
right,
one of the
right,
things to know when you're doing video. You end up
right.
being a producer and everything else behind the scenes. So yeah, I
Behind the
love it.
scenes. And yeah, so everybody that's jumping on and joining, absorb this. This is what happens. Some of the stuff that happens behind the scenes,
Mhm.
and it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. And that's the whole purpose of this, of going live, is to have fun and letting people see the authentic you showing
Absolutely.
up as the wonderful individual that you are. And that's what we're doing today on this amazing episode of LaQuita's Toolbox Live. Those of you that are joining us across the various social media platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Thank you so much for joining us. And we're just gonna dawdle here for a minute to give a few people to come on in the room. Right, right. Give them
Now
just
I've
a few
never
minutes.
heard it. I mean, I've heard of Twitch, but I've never been on it. So tell me about that really quick.
So I wish I could. My son, transparent. I'm learning Twitch. I'm still in the learning process.
I love it.
So my children told me about Twitch, and they told me about Twitch a long time ago, to be very honest. But I'm
Mhm.
not a gamer, so I didn't pay enough attention. And one of my sons said, "Mom, you do know there's more things going on Twitch than gaming. It's
Mm.
communities of people who use this as a streaming platform. Yes, gamers are the predominant users, but even gamers have other interests in gaming, and so." It's like any other streaming platform or community where you stream. People are there having conversations and building communities to talk about relevant topics that are relevant to them.
Oh, so it actually is video as well.
Yes, it is video.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
So, yeah. And since I've been streaming to Twitch, I do get some good feedback from Twitch sometimes, and get some good engagement from some users on that platform, who
Mm.
were, especially as it related to the topics that I've gotten the most, were topics related to wellness,
Mm.
self care, personal development, business, because a lot of the gamers are small business owners, because if they've been streaming a while and they've got a following, they want to know how to build that up, right? So,
Mm.
you know,
Girl, I'm taking notes. Now, how do I get on it? Do I just go, is it on
you
your
go and you
desktop?
create a profile on Twitch. So you can go to it online and create a profile. You use StreamYard. So
Mhm.
once you create your profile, just go to your
Mhm.
destinations and connect it.
Mm.
So I do see we've got a couple people coming on in the room. Miss Ashton, how are you today, woman of God? I hope that you are blessed.
Mhm. Hey, Ashton.
I hope you are well. I follow Ashton on LinkedIn and on Facebook, and Ashton has an amazing story.
Yes,
Um,
she's a swimmer, right?
yes, she's a swimmer.
Mhm.
She's a former Special Olympian gold medalist. Did some amazing thing in representation of our country in
Mhm.
the area of swimming, and she has a store. She has a book out as well. Ashton, if you don't mind, if you drop the link, your Amazon link to your book, drop it in the comment section, and I'll put it up so people can know how to find you and how to
Mhm.
find your book and how to reach out to you, because she has a story that needs to be told. You know,
Amen.
yeah, she has a story that needs to be told on all platforms. So
Mhm.
hopefully you'll get back to us, Ashley, and put that link up. But let's go ahead and jump right into today's topic. And first, we want to give a shout out to Mr. Tony Williams Ellsworth, connected with us on LinkedIn. He
Mhm.
had an opportunity to watch the replay from our show on last Thursday, and he's an amazing individual. Wears many hats. Uh, Primarily, those hats lead him to service unto the veteran community. So,
Mhm.
yeah, he's doing some great work there with some amazing organizations, veterans organizations, as well as the NAACP. So, if you're not connected to Tony on LinkedIn, you want to get connected to him. The gentleman has so much great value, and it just shows the power of networking. We
Yes.
talked about that in our previous show as well. Tony saw the show, reached out to us. We had some great conversation there in the LinkedIn, and then we were able to connect very recently um, on a video chat and had a
Hmm.
great time.
Yeah. I mean, he had all kind of stuff going on. I was like, hey, he's really good with this the videos and clips that were coming up on
Yes,
something. I was like, this is a real production, okay?
we probably should be taking some lessons from him.
Exactly. Okay. That was awesome.
Awesome, awesome. So, I want to also, before we get right into our conversation today, take a moment to thank our sponsors at Covenant
Hmm.
Press. Covenant Press is a faith based Christian and apparel and accessory shop that is online, where we as believers are able to purchase items that help us wear the message of the love of Jesus Christ.
Hmm.
If you want to know more about Covenant Press and the amazing things that they have there, clothes as well as, like I said, accessories, go to www.covenant-press.com. Again, that's www.covenant-press.com. Shop until you drop. They always have some amazing deals and some wonderful specials going on. So make sure you pay attention to that when you land on the page. They're always offering great promo codes so that you can get discounts on the purchases that you're making. And I'd also like to make mention that they are a veteran owned company. So
Mm.
let's get out and support our military community, our veteran community. And let's go out and connect with Covenant Press. So
Hmm.
good deal, good deal. So listen, last week was a great show. We had some good feedback, and I like organic conversation. And so
Yes.
I know that uh, you are really passionate about mental wellness
Hmm.
um, in women and humanity as a whole.
Hmm.
And we are in the right in the middle of Mental Health Awareness Month, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm.
Sometimes I get it wrong, so help a sister out.
Hey, it's like my kids, girl. You got to write it down. Just saying.
Right, right.
Not gonna pretend, okay? Because I will
Listen,
forget some stuff. So
yes,
yeah.
I have got sticky notes for my sticky notes, right?
Yes.
We have another viewer that's jumped on there from the YouTube community. Listen,
Hmm.
guys, those of you that are joining us, please keep in mind, let's like, follow, share, and
Hmm.
subscribe. And but most importantly, get in the comments and let's engage.
Hmm.
We want to have this, want this to be a very robust conversation. So we want to hear from you. We want to hear your thoughts. We want to hear your concerns. We want to get your feedback, any tools that you have that can help other military spouses as well as those that are single who are in that position of getting married so that they can have a healthy, thriving
Hmm.
uh, family life and married life while they're serving while they're serving our great nation. So
I
come on
totally
in.
agree with that. And,
Yeah.
I want to remind everybody that this is the best way to network. If
Mhm.
you have somebody else on a platform, you can make all the comments you want and don't have to worry about being on camera. If your
Mhm.
hair's done, what outfit you wearing, you can engage and really be a part of the conversation. So make those comments. That's all
Mhm.
I'm gonna add.
Yes. I also want to say if there are other military spouses or service members who say, you know what, this conversation is great. I wish I can have a chance to just say my piece.
Mhm.
Message us. And
Mhm.
we'd love to have you and
Mhm.
get your wisdom, get your feedback, answer any questions live. If you're saying, okay, I don't want to type all of that, but I would like to jump on your live,
Mhm.
message us, and we'd be happy to have you on to be a value added guest and contribute to the conversation. So
Mhm.
just want to put those notes out there. So listen, because we and I want to make sure we stay on track today. One of us got to help the other one do this. I'm gonna depend on you. I'm gonna depend on you, Michelle, to help us do that.
Okay.
We've had we were in a really great clubhouse room this morning
Mhm.
about the importance of sharing your story, and that's one thing that I will say in my journey as a military spouse that became very helpful to me.
Mhm.
when others would share their story with me. And I want to preface this by saying sharing your story from a position of wanting to add value, not
Mhm.
just complaining. And we'll get to the piece about the negativity attached to complaining. We
Mhm.
don't want anyone to feel like they have to pretend that they're okay when they're not okay. That's not what we're saying. But a part of getting to a healthy space is not only discussing the problem, but also seeking solutions, even if that
Mhm.
solution is something you're not comfortable with. Learning to make the hard, right decision. And I don't mean something that's going to cause you to compromise anything, but if a solution is going to require you to change a little bit in order to grow as a person, then we're going to explore that as well. Hopefully, we can explore it today. If not, we'll definitely explore it on next Thursday. So, what would you have? What do you think about the value of sharing your story? How important that is in military families with other military families.
Well, I think that's a great point that you bring up because I think as military spouses, there's a lot of freedom in sharing your story. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we are held hostage a lot of time. Well, I can only speak for myself. But my experience as a spouse, there's so many things that I didn't feel comfortable with,
Mm-hmm.
from knowing the rank or some of the protocol for military functions and who to talk to, who not to talk to. And so, that just kind of has an added layer of anxiety when
Mm-hmm.
you're going through some hard things that you don't really know who to talk to about.
Mm-hmm.
My experience was that my husband was an officer, and then there's this unsaid rule about not fraternizing with people that are not officers, and so there's so much anxiety around that. However, the reality that we all have certain things in common,
Mm-hmm.
and that is one of the things that has really had me passionate about sharing my story of going through depression you
Mm-hmm.
know and letting people know that it's just not a military spouse thing. It's not
Mm-hmm.
just a mom that has a lot of kids thing. It's not just a racial thing. It's not just an age thing. It crosses so many different areas that
Yes.
it's just important to have the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I'm aspiring to now is really jumping into the Spanish community. So I don't know a lot of vocabulary when it comes to Spanish. However, that is something that I am being intentional about because I feel like within that community as women, we have so many things in common, but this language barrier is
Mm-hmm.
keeping us from being able to share strategies and tools that we all could thrive from. And so when you share your story, you're able to, one, live beyond it. You know, when you have a story, a lot of us are stuck there.
Mm-hmm.
I was early in my time on Clubhouse, which is, the platform that we were on this morning. And I would encounter people that were still in their story. They talk about, being a mom and all this, but their kids are grown,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's like, okay, I understand that kids are always gonna be a part of our life, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like they are stuck in a time warp, and
Yes.
they're really in that mindset that they are held hostage to their kids,
Mm-hmm.
but their kids are grown, married, not even in the same city, but they're still holding on to that same story.
Right.
And, that happens when we don't make peace with our story
Mm.
and move
That's
beyond
good.
it. We got to be
Yes.
able to understand that, hey, you know what? I am living beyond this story. This
Mm-hmm.
happened to me. Let me take the lessons that empower me and help me to be stronger. But, I can't keep going around. That's like me breaking my leg when I was in four. And every time I meet somebody at 51 talking about I broke my leg, it's like I'm walking, running, have done everything, right? But I'm still talking about this broken leg. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the story.
That's real good. That's real good. I love that point that you brought out about being staying stuck in your story.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's very relevant um, to each of us. And I know just even, specific to those of us that are the military spouses, every duty station isn't the same duty station.
Mm-hmm.
Every PCS move, permanent change of station, for those that don't know, every
Mm-hmm.
permanent change of station move is not the same. The every supervisor that you will meet is not the same, but it's like you said, sometimes I've had those experiences where people are bringing that negativity from their previous experience
Mm-hmm.
into their current experience, their current duty station, and that keeps them from enjoying that duty station.
Mm-hmm.
My family and I looked at it from the slate white clean position.
Mm-hmm.
I can't change what happened, but I do have the ability um, to learn the lesson from it and make it my business to try not to let that happen again in my current duty station. And that's something that I would oftentimes share with other spouses when given the opportunity. Your previous, duty station, or a lot of times for me as an NCO's wife, a lot of time the spouses that I dealt with worked straight from home, straight out of high school. I'm in love with my high school sweetheart, so we're gonna get married. We've got a few kids, and boom, we're in the army now. That was my story. So it was a lot of me's that I met.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're coming into your new home and building your new home with your husband or your wife, or you're coming into this new city that's not your city, or most importantly, uh, more so when you're coming out of America and being stationed in a foreign country, just because that foreign country does not do things the way that we do them here in America does not mean that it's wrong. It's different, not wrong. And so uh, it's important for us to share those stories, I believe, as spouses, as to those who have not been married as long as we are, to help them go through that transition and sharing our stories, even the negative stories, from a positive position. But if
Mm-hmm.
we have not, if we're still stuck in it, if we're still stuck in that story,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to share that story from a position of negativity, and it's going to be like, just throwing up garbage on the person, and it won't give the person hope. It'll just give them gloom and doom. Like, um, for years, common rumor was, okay, if your family goes to Germany, your husband's gonna leave you. You want to get married. Your husband goes to Korea, he's gonna leave you. You're not gonna stay married. Oh, your husband goes to a rapid deployment duty station like Fort Hood, of which we've been every one of those, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so, if I was to believe the negativity or just stay in that negative scenario that was given to us, both my husband and myself, we probably would have begun to unconsciously accept that,
Mm-hmm.
and then our own lives will begin to unravel. But we
Mm-hmm.
didn't just take that information as gold. We wanted the experience for ourselves, and then we learned how to intentionally seek out people who had better, who had a better experience, and draw from those experiences. I see Miss Lisa here says yes, it's true. Bringing past assignments into new assignment. Um, and hers was a FRG association. So I
Mm-hmm.
had the pleasure of meeting Miss Lisa in
Okay.
Germany. Amazing, amazing woman. And uh, Lisa, if you could you elaborate that on that a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
of your takeaway on how important it was not to bring past assignments into your new assignment, and how being connected to your FRG association was a positive for you, or was it a negative?
Mm-hmm.
Our husbands weren't in the same unit, so we weren't in the same FRG.
Okay.
Yeah. So
But I think that is so good about and see, these lessons are not just for military.
mhm.
When you think you have a bad day, you bring it home to your kids, or your spouse has a bad day, he brings it home to you. These are things that we have to learn how to process. I was doing an interview this week, and the lady said that we have 10 seconds to process our emotional issue.
Mm-hmm.
And after 10 seconds, it really harbors a lot of stress in our body. And for women, it takes 24 hours for us to process that out. And
Wow,
men, it only takes 9 hours. So
that
when we
explains a
think
lot.
about, yeah, I'm
That
telling
explains
you,
a lot.
24 hours. Okay. That's crazy that it takes that long. But, and think about how much longer it is if we're having a story that may not be serving us attached to it.
Mm,
Like, oh, woe is me, or, explaining why we're feeling victimized in a way that, we're holding on to that rather than letting it go. We can perpetuate that. So it already can go on its own for 24 hours. But if we add more to it or don't allow it to face the truth on it, I think,
right.
that's one of the things that I tell people now. I'm able to be vulnerable because I'm willing to tell the truth about some stuff that I was lying to myself about.
Yes.
You know, so it's like, and
Yes.
then the thing about it is, how's that working for you? You can hold on to this lie and this belief system, but it's not serving you. At the end
Mhm.
of the day, you're still miserable.
Yeah,
So, that's my thoughts on that.
I love it.
Mhm.
I love it. When we are unable to let go of the things that no longer serve us or have never served us, really,
Mhm.
um, we keep ourselves stuck. We keep ourselves stuck, and that's not good. I don't care whether you're a military spouse or you're not. That's just not good. That's not a good practice to
Mhm.
have in order. But if we're looking at it from the standpoint of us as military spouses, you said something earlier about not being real sure how to operate if you're a brand new military spouse, what the ranks are, and
Mhm.
you know what are the different uh, processes
Protocol.
or protocols
Mhm.
that you have to follow in the different scenarios. And in your new military spouse, right? Doesn't mean you're a young
Mhm.
person. You could just be a new military spouse.
Yeah.
Whatever your lived experience was prior to you becoming a military spouse, that's your point of reference. And so that point of reference, your lived experience prior to becoming a military spouse, the truth of the matter is some of those lived experiences, we're going to have to let them go because
Mhm.
they won't serve us very well in our positions as military spouses.
Mhm.
You know, one of the things I'm not sure about for officers, but one of the things that I realized that I had to do because it was really weird sitting around and hanging out with other couples or having friends over because at this point, most everyone is military and they're talking and it's like they're speaking a foreign language because I have no idea what any of these terms, these acronyms mean. And so every few minutes, well, what does that mean?
Mhm.
What is this? Or what was that? Or, on the car ride home. And I said to myself, okay, what can I do to help me learn what I need to learn
Mhm.
so that I can function better in my new environment?
Mhm.
So for me, that became becoming my husband's study buddy. So for
Mhm.
the enlisted in the army, we have to take tests. They have to go to a board and they have to prepare for that board. Well, I was his study buddy, and what did that do? That gave me. My son used to have this book called I don't know how many the book of what was it? Just random things that you know. So that
Mhm.
became my random things that I had in my head. All of that, the
Mhm.
army regulations, the ARs, the FMs, all of these different things that he had to study to prepare to be successful at his boards. With me being his study buddy, now I'm absorbing that information. Now, prior to that, was that ever on my list of top 10 things to do when he came in the army? Was to study his stuff that he needed to know for work? I think not.
Mhm.
It wasn't.
Right.
But I had to take personal responsibility because he had neither the time nor the temperament to explain all of that to me. It had taken him months and years to learn it. There was no way he was going to be able to take that moment in every
Mhm.
conversation to explain everything. So I had to learn. I had to
Mhm.
unlearn the things from my past because
Mhm.
they were not serving me and be willing to learn the things in my right now
Mhm.
that served me so that when my sponsor, i.e., my husband, was not around and I had to go access certain facilities, whether it was ACS, Army Community Services, whether it was at my FRG meeting or going to take my kids to the doctor or whatever the case may be, when someone was speaking to me, I wasn't like the deer in the headlights. Like, okay, I'm
Right.
tracking. I follow what you're saying. All right, I get that. Right? Like,
True. That's true.
yes,
Yeah.
Lisa shared with us here. She said that she had a bad experience once with her husband returning to active duty after only being a weekend warrior. So he was reservist as well. Lisa,
Mhm.
I didn't know that. This left a bad taste in her mouth, especially due to him being deployed. Um, and he had let that, let me see, she finished it out here, go after that duty station. He didn't get involved in the organization at the next station. Slowly over the years, she adapted to new stations, then later reconnected to FRG organizations.
Mm.
So her experience with her husband being called up to active duty and then going into the deployment was a negative experience
Mhm.
being connected with that FRG.
Mhm.
And but over the course of time, she learned to let those things go.
Mhm. Totally resonate with that
Yeah.
because, we talked about that last time about, FRGs and just recognizing that, we have a lot of family oriented goals
Mm-hmm.
per se when
Mm-hmm.
we refer to that with the military, but actually how that maps out or is demonstrated is something totally different. So
Yes.
we can all have the goal, but there's some disconnect there. And, that's one of the things that really helped our unit when my husband was activated for active duty is that we came from that weekend warrior unit. However, we were all focused on family readiness together. And, that involved the enlisted, the commissioned, whatever officers all coming together, creating that community and support. So that was one of the things that I really had valued. And it was fortunate that it was towards the end of my husband's military career that we were able to have this type of situation. Had he been earlier in his career, I don't know if that might have been the story.
Mm-hmm.
Age might have had something to do with it because he had been a soldier for so long.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was because it was wartime and, he had to train troops that had to go overseas, to fight. So during Operation Desert Storm. So I think, all these different factors, but to me, it goes back to your intention.
Mm-hmm.
We were intentional in creating our own family unit
Mm-hmm.
with meeting together, as spouses. We had a weekly time that we would come together. We would rotate the menu, what we're serving. We made sure that everybody had an opportunity to lead what we were going to be serving the kids and, what activities we were going to be doing with them and, having different conversations, what the theme was going to be. This was something that we did on our own and I think, when you see so much transition from people coming in and out with different PCSs,
Mm-hmm.
the staff, and really this is volunteer. Okay. So let's be clear about that with the FRD, right? So people have different stuff going on. And so if you're not really clear on your intention, a lot of people can misunderstand a lot. It's just like the definition of success. We could both be business owners but, I'm like, "Hey, I'm only working 5 days a week and I'm being off on the weekend."
Mm-hmm.
Whereas somebody else is like, "Hey, anytime somebody's calling, they picking up the phone."
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing. It's like, the definition of family and what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so many opportunities for loopholes to come into play and, differences in communication styles, a number of things that, we can really that's a whole topic in itself.
Yes, 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 Yes.
Mhm.
It is. Thank you for joining us, Jeffrey. We really appreciate the love and support. Jeffrey has an amazing podcast.
Okay.
And you want to connect with him on LinkedIn as well as on Facebook. He has some amazing value, and his podcast is where we treat everybody like family. That's his motto, and
Okay.
and he really, really does. So he's an amazing connection. Jeffrey, if you are still watching, yes, sir, drop the link, drop your link down in the comment section, and I'll post it so people can check out your podcast and some of the amazing value that you bring on your podcast. He has some really great guests. I had an opportunity to be a guest on his show a couple of months back and had a blast.
Mhm.
So you touched on Mr. Tony. Thank you, sir, for joining us all the way from LinkedIn. Man, we
I
had a
love it.
great time, right? We had a great time. We probably should have sent him the link for today. If we would have cut up
Mhm.
on here as if
He
we
would have
weren't
had a whole bunch
live.
of video clips and all that stuff, and we would have been like, "Look, we have the memo because we might be in the middle of talking, and then boom, we got a video or something."
Right?
He's good. Mhm.
Right, right. Lisa put a good comment. It says sometimes you were voluntarily told, and that's a fact.
Amen.
Like
Amen.
that is a fact.
Voluntold is what they call it instead
Yes,
of
it is
volunteer.
voluntold.
Voluntold. Yeah.
Yes, we have a lot of that. And here's the thing: like when we're learning the customs, the procedures, um, again, it was one of those situations where I had to adopt the attitude, different, not wrong. Now, sometimes some
Mm.
stuff was just flat out wrong. Let's be honest. We're not trying to paint this as a bed of roses, right? Sometimes some things were just flat out wrong. I didn't like it. I was mad about it, and so was everybody else. We just
Right.
collectively, all of a sudden, listed spouses, dependents, we were collectively unhappy.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
the thing is, are we going to remain stuck in that?
Right.
And are we going to remain stuck in that mindset? The
Mhm.
things that I cannot change, I
Mhm.
learn how to adapt and overcome
Amen.
and not stay stuck there. There are going to be some things, um, probably until Jesus returns, that we will not be able to
Mhm.
change as it comes
Mhm.
to military custom and
Mhm.
procedure. That's across
Mhm.
every branch.
Yeah.
You've got we to learn to take the good with the bad, not
Mhm.
minimizing the bad. Again, I don't want to stress. Can't stress this enough. We're not trying to minimize the things that take place that aren't right,
Mhm.
or you find that are unjust. We're not trying to minimize that. Our goal in our conversations is hopefully those that tune in will be able to take some tool takeaways so that, like Lachelle said, you won't get stuck in that story. You won't get so stuck in that
Mhm.
bad experience that it ruins the entirety of the
Mhm.
time that you have as a military family.
Mhm. So
Yeah.
true. And I think also it's the whole thing of whatever you focus on grows.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're focused on the negativity, you're going to find more negativity.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be a magnet for the things that you really don't want.
Yes.
So when you learn how to um, figure out how to be a problem solver, and like we talked about being a volunteer, as the person who solves problems, you may not have monetization for that,
Mm-hmm.
but it will give you a platform to be able to be an example, a leader,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's FRG or different things in your unit. So many different things could happen as a result of your attitude that can give
Yes.
you a platform to be able to do different things and connect with people that could really help you.
Yes, that's
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
That's it. That is that. You hit the nail on the head there. Like
Mhm.
our 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 attitude determines everything.
Mhm.
Our attitude, the way we perceive something becomes our reality,
Amen.
and we could continue to perceive things from a negative situation, and it will forever henceforth be negative. Or we could
Mhm.
perceive to try to see the good in the situation.
Mhm.
I love that, Lisa. Whatever you give time, thought, and action to, it will determine your story. That's a
Mhm.
mic drop moment there, sis. You are right on point.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are right on point. And
Mhm.
so military spouses, wherever you find yourself, female military spouses, male military spouses, or whatever, as a spouse, what we give our energy and our time to is just what Lisa said will determine our story. And
Mhm.
we help to cultivate the atmosphere in our home. So when our service member comes home from the weight of what they deal with,
Mhm.
how are you cultivating that atmosphere?
Mhm.
It becomes part of parcel of our job. Now, I'm not saying it's 100% our responsibility to make sure that our home is healthy and thriving. It's two
Mhm.
parent households, two people's responsibility. But I own 100% of my portion of that, right?
Mhm.
Of my
Mhm.
responsibility. It is
Mhm.
not my husband's job to own my portion. That is my responsibility. And that
Mhm.
was a hard lesson learned for me.
Mhm.
That was a very hard lesson learned for me. And it kept, because you had said some powerful things about it on Clubhouse this morning. For all of the things that were wrong and going on that were not right at different points in his career, especially when he was a young soldier, we were just married, and I was still trying to learn how to navigate my way through what this military life looked like.
Mhm.
It was everybody's fault but mine.
Right. I girl been there, done that. Yeah.
I, yeah. Now,
Mhm.
again, I'm not minimizing the things that happened that were wrong. They
Mhm.
were wrong.
Mhm.
However, what could I have done? So, for instance, um, and you want to get my book. The story I'm about to share is in my book.
Mhm.
And if you like that interesting tidbit, you're really going to love the other interesting tidbits because I took some of our experiences as a military family and I put it in my
Mhm.
book, Redefining Success, 8 tools that I use to develop a growth mindset. Um,
Mhm.
in this particular story, it was the late 90s and we were stationed on Fort Hood. We lived in the city, lived in a duplex. My husband was an E4 at the time. We occupied one side of the duplex. There was an E5 and his family that occupied the second side of the duplex. Everybody's paying rent on time.
Mhm.
One morning, we were all sitting out drinking a cup of coffee, just chopping it up, having a good time. And these two men just walk in the yard, like, who are these people and what are you doing?
Mhm.
Well, um, after introducing, stopping them and saying, hey, what are you doing? They were the VA appraisers. The owner of the property had stopped paying the mortgage. And so neither the owner of the property nor the property manager bothered to tell us, the tenants, that we needed to find a new place to live. And so at that time in the 90s, housing and the way the housing list was designed at that
Mhm.
time, not this current time, but at
Mhm.
that time, say that loud, at that time,
Mhm.
it was more specifically designed for senior non-commissioned officers as well as officers. They got first priority.
Mhm.
So when we went with a legitimate need, my husband was counseled on financial readiness. And so, was that right? It
Mhm.
was right. And we complained about it and complained about it and complained about it. Now, the Lord provided, and the
Mhm.
situation was rectified. Let me say that. The Lord
Mhm.
provided, and the situation was rectified. And you probably say, well, LaQuita, that sounds like you ain't do nothing wrong. But we did. We did. There was, my husband was getting paid every month on time. It
Mhm.
was up to us to learn money management skills.
Mhm.
And even if we didn't have all of the money we needed to move, we should have had something.
Mhm.
So, but at that particular time in our life, we were not mature enough to accept that portion of the responsibility. Now, the
Mhm.
Army's answer, it wasn't right. It
Mhm.
was not right. However, neither was it right that we were not properly positioned for
Mhm.
emergencies.
Mhm.
And that's what they were
Mhm.
trying to teach us. They just didn't quite do it the right way. That's what the whole thing was about. Was trying
Right.
to teach the necessity. They just like, oh, you're gonna get some, you're gonna get counseling and maybe a possible Article 15 or whatever. We're gonna give you what
Mhm.
you need. But these negative
Mhm.
things are gonna happen that could quite possibly impact your next promotion. Now, see, we
Mhm.
forget about the rest of
Yeah.
that.
Well, and I think that is such a good point. I mean, that's really how life is. We can't go back and change what has already happened.
Mm-hmm.
However, we can take learning lessons from them.
Mm-hmm.
When I first got out of the hospital, after my last hospitalization, going through my journey with depression, I went to a vision board party, and we had a keynote speaker, and she was an author. So she got up and she spoke, and she said, I just want to introduce myself and let everybody know that I used to be a prostitute. So everybody's looking around like, what? And she said, well, I wasn't on a street corner, but I was a single mom, and I did what I had to do to pay my bills and take care of my kids. And
Mm-hmm.
so she said, I can say that with conviction because I'm not that person anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about it for many of us is that we are too attached to our story, that the reason why is because it helped mold who we are today. And
Yes.
we can't figure out how to detach from it. So we try to hide part of it. It's like that's where the masks come into, not talking about it, pretending it's going to go away,
Mm-hmm.
instead of really embracing it and taking the lessons we learn so that we can know how we're going to navigate and how we can recognize. Look, I mean, it's no different than, you learn that if you don't manage your time, you're not going to get fired from your job because you're not making it on time. If you
Mm-hmm.
get fired one time, you're going to be like, okay, the last job, they didn't put up with that. So I'm not even going to let that be an issue. Now, I'll
Yes.
bring up something totally different because, we look at people's situation and we say, oh, that's military stuff or that's whatever. And the lessons go across all boards. It doesn't matter if you're military or not. If you don't show up on time or if you don't have the money when you do to pay something, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter what your rank is, who you are, it's the same thing across the board. So we focus too much on categorizing
Mm-hmm.
people and separating ourselves from one another instead of coming together and saying, okay, you know what? I learned that lesson when this happened.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how I've taken that information and helped me to be where I am today.
Wow, today. That's powerful. That's
Mhm.
powerful. I can only imagine the energy in the room when she gave that statement.
Yeah,
I would have
I'm
been looking
telling you.
around like, look at our face.
Girl, look, I'm still talking about it. This was 6 years ago, okay?
I mean,
I am
that she
inspired by
gathered
this.
everyone's attention from the beginning.
Yes.
Everybody was tunnel focused on her. I love it.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
now
Look,
hear
I
what
don't
I
even
have to
remember
say.
what her name is, but I remember that.
You remember her story.
Yes.
Lisa brought up a very good point here. Not only is it related to my story, but even as it's related to the conversation we're having, um,
Mhm.
about the necessity of being able to tap into the resources that we have, unlearning the stuff from our past that don't serve us, and being willing to take personal accountability and responsibility and learn the stuff we do need to learn in order to be successful. As she
Mhm.
said, it was talked about around that time. So Lisa's husband, I want to say, Lisa, please jump in the chat and correct me. Um, Kim served, I know it was over 20 years, but I can't remember 20 what. And Lisa's, I think, a mother of five as well.
Mm.
She said, now that the Army teaches on finances and offer financial classes, absolutely. I know for a long time, Financial Peace University was offered, Dave Ramsey's course was offered through ACS as a way. They learn, organizations learn, they grow. In the 90s, the answer was very different than what it would be today. It was very different than what it would have been in the early to mid 2000s. So, yes, here you go. Miss Lisa, 25 years. She was an active duty, and she's a mother of four. So, again, to potential military spouses, to service members who are thinking about getting married, these are the things that you want to take note of how to better prepare your spouse, um, to be successful in this journey as a military spouse. Knowing all the resources that you have, and please do not let anybody else's negative experiences with those resources hinder you from learning them and using them when you need them. Now, I will say it's going to be some caveats to that, and we probably won't have time to talk about it today because we are already at 45 minutes, Lachelle.
Yes, time goes by so quick, and I mean, I love the whole concept of this series is being proactive rather than reactive.
Yes.
And we can't. Excuse me. Hold on. One of the things about talking on this platform, it just happens randomly. But I would say, conversations are so important.
Mm-hmm.
We take it for granted,
Mm-hmm.
but this is how we grow and learn. It's
It
by
is.
being able to be open, vulnerable, talk about the things that we don't know so that we can learn. You
Mm-hmm.
don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So asking questions,
Yes. Yeah.
that's the beginning.
It is. It is. I've been doing a little networking, and so by God's grace, prayerfully, on our next two episodes, we will have some other military spouses that will join us. One of them is currently active duty. She's a chaplain. Her husband, so she had that dual experience as being on active duty as well as being a spouse. Uh, the One of the other individuals, she is currently retired, but she also had that experience of being active duty and a spouse. Um, and the other, well, three of them have done active duty time. One of the ladies, who is, I'm waiting on her feedback. I hope she can join us. She was a civilian while her husband was on active duty as enlisted,
Mm,
and made the decision that I am going to join the army as well. And she did that transition from green to gold. She joined as an enlisted, but she retired out as a major.
mm-hmm.
And the fourth person, who she did confirm, her entire time was as like you and I, military spouse. Her
Mm,
husband is a combat vet. They're here local in
wow.
the Killeen area. He's a West Point grad, and he's doing some amazing work um, as a clinician here in the Central Texas area. So I cannot wait. Hopefully, they'll be able to join us across these next two episodes and continue,
Amen.
so we can continue to add value to our military community. It's all about being proactive. And again, the
Mm-hmm.
tips and tools that we're using, yes, is our focus. Saying, we're talking about our experiences as military spouses and the military spouse life, yes. But if you're listening or watching, and you are a civilian and have no intentions on ever being involved in the military, these same tips and tools will work for you as well.
Right.
Right.
And I would say people who, have resources,
Mm-hmm.
let us know. You mentioned something about how, things were done differently when you were first a military spouse as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to now.
Yeah, in the 90s,
And of
it's very
course,
different.
my husband is retired now, and there's things that are changing that we're not aware of. And so feel free to come and join the conversation. Let us know about resources because,
Mm-hmm.
with this audience, we can be able to inform them about things that they may not even be aware of.
Absolutely. 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 There's so many,
Mhm.
again, not never minimizing the negative, and we're not trying to paint a picture of a bed of roses and perfection.
Mhm.
But what we are endeavoring to do is help you shift the way that you think
Mhm.
and go into um, this journey as a military spouse from a very positive perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, stuff gonna happen. It's how we respond to it and
So
continue
true.
to move forward from it is what's important.
So true. Totally
Awesome,
agree.
awesome, awesome, awesome. Listen, it has been another great conversation. I don't know where the time be going.
No.
I mean, it just goes so fast.
So fast. It doesn't even seem, yeah. But I mean, and these topics, there would have been a time that it would be hard for me to talk about it,
Mm-hmm.
because hard conversations, it's like, well, I don't want to say this, I don't want to say that. But, when you're really clear about, what you want to accomplish, your mission, and how you feel you want to serve, it's so much easier to have
Yes.
some conversations that before might have been a challenge.
Mm-hmm. True. And that's how you know that you're no longer living in that story. That story is an important part of you. It's my experiences are an important part of who I am. They
Mm-hmm.
laid some good foundational work on who I am. But when I share the tough stuff, I can share the tough stuff. And sometimes I can share it with a smile because I am an overcomer. It
Amen.
happened, but I'm greater than that because I'm here and I could pull the lesson out and share with somebody else. And so, yeah, cool, cool, cool. Well, Miss Lachelle, before we sign off in the audience and also from yourself, is there anything else that you would love to leave the audience with today before we sign off?
I would say invite somebody to the conversation,
Yes.
share the video. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. Um, Network with each other. If you see people commenting, reach out to them on LinkedIn or YouTube and make those connections. It's just like a networking event.
Mhm.
Just because you're not on screen doesn't mean you can't connect.
That's true. That's true. So very true. So very true. We are all helpers one to another, and in order for us to continue to grow, even if you're saying, "Well, American Supermom LaQuita, I'm not an entrepreneur," it doesn't matter. If you are a military spouse, if you are not a military spouse, and we want to continue in our personal growth and development, we've got to make the right connections with the right people that can help us reach whatever our targets are that we want to reach. And if you're saying, well, I don't know what that is, you definitely want to connect with me or Lachelle. You definitely want to connect with me and Lachelle. Let's have a conversation and see if we can help you get pointed in the right direction of discovering who you are and what goals it is that you want to reach and why do you want to reach them. So it's been great, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to another amazing episode of LaQuita's Toolbox Live, where we have been doing. Now we've done 2 weeks. We have 2 more weeks. Um, no, I can't count. We've got 3 more weeks. We've got 3 more weeks of this 5 week series. Y'all pray for me. We got 3 more weeks of this 5 week series where we're focusing on military spouse life. As Lachelle said, get in the comments, engage with the comments, like, share, subscribe, bring a guest. We want to know if you got some things and you said, LaQuita, you guys have had 2 great conversations. However, it was some stuff y'all didn't talk about, and I want you to talk about it. Message me or Lachelle or get in the comment section of this broadcast and write us a note so that we can make sure that we address it. If you're interested in coming on and being a guest, please message us and so we can connect with you and do a quick Zoom chat and have a conversation and see how we can connect not only on this particular platform, but see if we can connect with you on some other platforms as well. So until next time, this is LaQuita Monley, and it's have been LaQuita's Toolbox. You guys be blessed and have a great day. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.